Welcome to ZAG Talk Podcast Live. My name is Guy Danhoff, and tonight we have a very special edition. We're going to be celebrating Women's History Month. And as our team was thinking about who would be maybe the best person that we could do this with, well, that name came pretty unanimously, and that couldn't be done without Beth Kirkpatrick. And Beth, we want to thank you so much for being here tonight. We're going to celebrate your career, all that you've done with your storied career as a physical educator, as someone who innovates and zags, and of course, what you've done to help so many people, whether it's been through your Director of Education or Advocacy throughout your career, as we celebrate Women's History Month. And Beth, we're just so happy that you're here.
Thank you. This is awesome.
So Beth, I think people would like to hear a little bit about your background. So I'm going to post this on the screen, but I'll let you speak to it. And first of all, for those who may not know, you spent your first 20 years at Tilford Middle School in Vinton, Iowa. And one of the things I found fascinating in doing our research together is you had something over like 500 students.
Yes, I had. We had every middle school kid, 6th, 7th, and 8th grader, and we had 65 kids every 48 minutes. And I did that for 20 years. And just to get them naked dressed, and teach them something I thought was a big accomplishment.
So then after that, you spent a year at Ball State, right? Yep. And then you spent nearly 2 decades at Polar, yep, where you kind of really got your first big break and all the things that went on there. And then you kind of went into retirement a little bit. And then you spent almost a year and a half with IHT, another leading heart rate company. And then in the past 8 years, you've been at Heart Zones as the Director of Education and Advocacy. And you just were in North Carolina. You were at their state convention. What was that like? As here it is, you're 70 years old and you're still busting it out.
It was awesome. I mean, there's so many people I know there. North Carolina was one of those states that Artie Camille, Larry McDonald, Kim Ballard, Shelley Full, chairman of the President's Council. They all took me in years ago when I was still teaching, and I must have been there 20 times, and you end up knowing everybody. And then so many people came by. It's really been like a trip around the United States again. It's just been fantastic.
So let's start with the question we always like to ask everyone. Let's go back to those days when you were, say, 19, 20, 21, 22. And, talk to us about your why. Why did you get into education? And then certainly after 20 years, then why did you make the pivot into literally the world of heart rate technology?
Well, I love sports, and I wanted to be a professional golfer, and I went and did some national tournaments, and I was able to play drums at night in a band with 7 guys, which was a lot of fun. and that gave me, that was in the 60s through high school. That gave me the income to be able to go do some things that I wanted to do and not have to have a real job during the day. So my folks were farmers. I went to a one-room schoolhouse, one of the last one-room schoolhouses until I was in 5th grade. So going to town school was kind of a big deal. And my parents were from very modest means. But my mom used to always just say, try it. If you want to do it, just try it. So I was really given that encouragement. And I played an exhibition with Patty Berg when I was 19. They called me and said, do you want to be in an exhibition with Patty Berg? And I said, more than I can tell you. I can hardly breathe. So when I got there and did this, her and I were matched against 2 young guys, and we tied them after 9 holes, which was kind of cool. And there was a gallery, but there was Patty Berg, and she was 60, and I thought she was so old, now I'm 70. And she was wearing a wool skirt, and I just remember she was just so serious, and I had lunch with her. I wanted to pick her brain because I want to be a professional like you, and she wasn't that warm to me, and on the 3rd hole. We were still tied. We're both out in the fairway pretty good, and the guys are out there too. And I hit my ball in the sand trap by the green, and she just goes, oh, which broke my heart, And so we get to the green, and the gallery is kind of feeling bad for me because she's on the green, and she's there, in regulation. I'm in the trap, and I go in the trap, and I move the ball a foot, and then she goes, oh, and then. I was just about ready to, here I wanted to be. I wanted to be Patty Berg someday. My mom's using Patty Berg clubs. Next thing I did was hole it out from the trap. I got a 4. I got a par. And the whole gallery just went, they were so happy for me because, and she was just she goes, was that a par? I go, yeah. And so she was just dead serious the whole way. We get done, we have lunch, and my thoughts pivoted to something else. This isn't enough. Hitting a golf ball isn't enough, and living that kind of a lonely life. I would like to be married, have children, grandchildren. It just seems like it was too much of one thing. And I kind of wanted to, in that frame set, I was thinking I'm going to live as many lives as I can, which is kind of an interesting thing as I move through the physical education world. So going into physical education was awesome. I thought, okay, I'll teach physical education. I'll coach. If that works out, there are ways to go. A lot of different ways to go on that.
Right. Yeah, but 20 years middle school.
Yeah, I loved it. I drove. I drove 52 miles each way to teach, and I didn't realize how powerful that was. At first, I kind of was how come I can't get a job closer? Well, there weren't any jobs closer, and I'll just drive a year, 2 years, and and then we had children, and so I was married. We had children, and it was tough not ever seeing them go to school or when they came home from school. I really, to this day, I wish that wasn't the way it was, but it was. But there was reflection. I had 1 hour of driving to school alone because I had our own children at home.
Right.
And then when I got to school, I had 550 kids all day long, back to back to back to back classes. And then I had 52 miles, another hour home. So I was reflecting and contemplating. For me, and knowing that Professor Peter Chen, who was in our program with a master's program for 7 years, reflection is your highest way of thinking and
right.
Developing. I think it was a big deal.
Well, what I'd like to do now is to transition from, you got done with your 20 years and then you go to Ball State and you're there for a year, but then you're transitioned to Polar. Kind of give us some of the things that were going on around at that time.
Well, actually, the transition I should tell you about doing the mile test. And
okay.
And there was 48 minutes, and at the time I was still thinking athletics, I guess, at that time. And everybody told you you have to run that mile, and you should run as fast as you can. And I had 65 kids, and I was worried about getting them showered, which is idiotic. And so we had a gang shower with sprockets on the wall. And I never really ever thought about how awful that was for every kid in school to have to get naked in front of their own classmates. They never had to get naked in their lives. And now we had them getting naked, but I hadn't thought of that until then. So I was out there, and the last girl was running and walking, and she was obese. And I went out and I really harassed her the last quarter of a lap, and for no reason, just because I thought they should go get showered. And we were all waiting for her. I wasn't thinking about her. And when she got to the finish line, she was going to fail the test anyway, but I was harassing her. When she got to the finish line, she collapsed and she went face first into the track, into the dirt. And I thought for 3 seconds, 10 seconds, I killed her. And when I went to turn her over and she woke up, first thing she did was apologize to me. She said, "I'm so sorry, Mrs. K. I am so sorry that I kept your classes. I know that they're late because of me, and I know you hate me. I hate myself. My mom hates me. I'm so sorry." And I couldn't even speak because I had just caused her. I wasn't treating her like a person or like a individual. Right. It was a horrible. She wasn't an athlete. I was thinking still athletics and that. And as we were walking in, it was awful as she went into the locker room, and I saw how she had to get undressed, and she had all these stretch marks and not very good underwear, and she was from the poor side of town, and I just thought this is all wrong. What are we doing? And she has to get naked with all the skinny girls and all of that, and even the skinny girls and the skinny boys and the whatever. It should be a right of privacy. So I started to look at that, and I was furious of what I had become and why I couldn't fix this. So I went to my superintendent the next day, and I said I wanted 5 minutes in the school board meeting the next Tuesday night. He said, "Okay, that'd be great. Talk about your program." I said, "Yeah, I'm going to." So when I got there were 4 women and 3 guys, and I said, "I want first of all, I want us 4 women. 3 guys. 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 I want us 4 wo and myself to go get naked in my locker room and shower together. And I want the men to do that too. Let's go. And what do you think they said?
Absolutely not.
Well, it would be horrific.
Weird. Yeah, weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I said, well, here's the thing. I want to resign all of my coaching. I said, I'm not focused. I'm not going to be a part of the problem. I shouldn't have had everybody running as fast as they could. You could kill somebody. I might have, by the grace of God. And I said, I'm not doing what I've been doing again. Things are going to change. And I don't know what or how I'm going to do this, but it's going to change. And the first thing I want is to not hurt self-esteem. And you cannot have kids, first thing they come in. And I just remember the sixth graders coming in and looking at the locker room saying, well, we have to get dressed out in the open and then we have to go in there and, I got a shower. Everybody's got a shower. Well, so they took a vote that night and they voted to put individual dressing and showering on the girls' side and the boys' side at Tilford Middle School in Vinton, Iowa. The superintendent resigned that year at the end of the year. He thought it was just thought it was just over the top. So I began at that point to look at every single thing that we were doing, including the exercises and including the problems in our society beyond cardio. What about back trouble? What about how come the number one claim for workman's compensation is a bad back? The number one killer in America is heart disease.
Right.
You know, I'm just taking a look at what are we doing, the fitness tests. We still give arm tests for pull-ups or push-ups or something, and there's no known disease where weak arms are a risk factor. You know, we're doing the dumbest things. So I just thought this is the beginning. I have an education here, and I'm going to make my changes in my program. I don't care if anybody else does it, including the high school or elementary. That was the transition, and that's when I heard about the heart rate monitors in '81 that had been invented in Finland, and then I realized that the distributor was in Iowa, AMF Corporation, and that's when I wrote the 100 letters and finally called almost every day, and I finally got the president answered one day, and he said, "Okay, we'll see you Tuesday." And I went before this group in Jefferson, Iowa, AMF Corporation, and I made my plea, and they said, "Why would physical educators want these?" And I said, "Well, it's because nobody wants you as a physical educator or as a coach to put my kid through abuse, through exercise abuse. Right. Not because of heat, not because of obesity, not because of asthma, not because of unknowns that we don't even know day to day how anybody is. We have no data. Half of our grade is effort. That's 50% of the grade is effort. And not one person listening to this right now can defend that effort grade because you have no data. And that's outrageous in the year 2022.
Absolutely. And our Chris Daly from MoShape says this, Beth, you just that story you just shared, you talk about recognizing mental health before it was even a hot topic. I mean, that really is that is a form of SEL that we would call in 2022, but going back about 25 years ago of you seeing and spotting that need and the boldness that you took at that time. So what I'd like to do is now transition to the next part. And this is, I got to tell you, Beth, this was pretty amazing, but I want to get your thoughts on, you know, here it is. Now you go from teacher, educator. Now you've learned about technology, heart rate. Talk to us on your thoughts about, you know, innovation, your ability to trailblaze. Literally, you've been all over the world, and also how important networking is. And then we'll get into two particular stories, but just overall that mindset, how you make that shift from physical educator to who you know to what you've become.
Well, I think, first of all, you have to reach outside the walls of the gym. And John Stevens was one of the people that brought that to my attention, superintendent in Grundy Center with Rick Schubach. I began to collaborate with Rick because Rick taught our sons. He had my sons. And when he didn't have any technology, I went into the first, the parent-teacher conference, and I said, "How could you give my kids A's? You have no idea what they did." "Well, I gave them A's. What do you want? What do you want me to do?" I said, "I want you to show me how you got that grade, and right. I want you to use technology. I want you to treat that." So it was kind of, to reach out to him, and then we needed to do something to get the community to realize we have to have some funds, we have to have some innovation here. Who's going to help us? So,
Right.
so we put the heart rate monitors on the day in the life of our community members. We said, look, let's, you got to do this. You do this, your kid's going to get 100 points extra. So they volunteered, and we ended up having 700 people wear it for the day in the life of. And what I thought I was going to see was careers that would show a lot of activity, careers that were sedentary, and that kind of thing. But it ended up happening, and I blew the printouts up to this big, to 16 sheets, and I printed them all out with inkjets, and I put tape over them, put them on boards, and we hung them on the wall of the gym, as Bob Knight can attest to when he came there. And so they were hanging on the walls of the gym, and the more we put up, the more you really realize that this is an educational environment. It's not a place for coaching, and we don't have anything. I have been in a thousand gyms probably, and it's not a teaching station. It's a place where you coach, where athletes gather, or where people watch things. We don't have anything hanging on the walls of the gym that show how we've interacted with the community. And when the community saw this, we also put the heart monitors on the day in the life of an elementary kid who doesn't have physical education, sedentary. Right. All 700 people up on the walls, sedentary. Didn't matter what the job was. It was astonishing. So then you go to the middle school. If you don't have physical education, sedentary. The whole school day is that way. And the same thing in high school. So we had a way to go to the school board and say, you've got to give us more time for physical education. Otherwise, a sedentary community is going to be a sedentary, it's snowballing, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. And we can fix that here, and we'll open up the fitness center we have in our school to the community. And that was kind of the whole way through that. And so when we were doing this, we got the attention of all kinds of people, really. And I used to write letters to anybody, whether it was Arnold Schwarzenegger. We ended up getting one of his books, and one of the things that happened was I always thought that Dr. Kenneth Cooper would find out that I believe that the cardio test should be done using a heart rate monitor, so you would have nobody going to the max. It is ludicrous to take on a field test in the gold standard, the fitness gram, or any fitness battery of tests, and then say that every kid has to go to the max, whether it's the mile test or whether it's the 20-meter shuttle run or the pacer test. What are we doing telling kids to go as hard as they can to the max, to do a maximal test, when all of us have had 3 or 4 classes in science? It's outrageous. We don't have medical backgrounds on kids. We have 22% of the kids that are on using asthma medication. We have obesity that is out of control. And we're having these kids line up and go to where they think they should go with no feedback. I think it's just absolutely outrageous. So I've been saying that in every keynote I've done over the years. And Dr. Kenneth Cooper, the Aerobic Institute, who owns the Fitness Gram, a brilliant individual, a person who I admire greatly. His number 2 person was in my audience at South Padre as I was addressing, a lot of people down there at an administrators conference. And I make the same statement. I don't care if Dr. Kenneth Cooper tells you it's okay not to have a heart monitor. I think it's wrong. And till I take my last breath, I'll believe that. So Dr. Cooper, the number 2 guy, comes up and says, we'd like to have you be our guest at the Aerobic Institute tomorrow. Would you come to? I said, absolutely. So I flew up to Dallas from South Padre and stayed at the Aerobic Institute as their guest. They took me to his office, and in he walks. And I could hardly get my breath. He is a renowned, fabulous, achievement-oriented Christian individual. I don't know if I can say that, but he is. And he's honest and all of that. And he came in and he said, he was in his white coat. It was just thrilling to meet him. And we went over and sat on this side of his desk, the 2 of us on the same side. And he said, would you mind saying to me what you said yesterday in your keynote? I said, I've said it 1,000 times. It is outrageous to have anybody doing a cardio test without knowledge of heart rate. And it's outrageous to do a maximal test. Well, what would you suggest? And I said, well, let me show you. So in Brandy Center, I've been filming for years with Rick's kids, Shoebox kids, and my own children. I put in the disc and showed them here the kids are laying down. They have a heart monitor on. Now we're recording a pre-exercise heart rate. The pacer test, the mile test for the fitness gram or any other test doesn't mention heart rate. So you never take heart rate. I mean, you couldn't document anyway. If a kid is going like this, you can't tell.
Right.
So it's not even a part of the battery, and I believe that universities must make this change in this day and age. I've been all over the country talking to them, but I don't know if everybody's doing it. So I said, look, they're laying down. These are fourth graders. Look at them. They're just laying there recovering. We got classical music on because classical music can lower the heart rate, we think. And now we're going to go out to the where they're going to do the mile run, and they do the mile run. And they get done, they take a lap for cool down, they walk into the school and they lay down, and now we're doing recovery heart rate. The pacer test, I have it same way. Kids are doing the pacer test, somebody's counting. Now with the new technology, the squares or the heart rates are shown up on a wall, and the squares change color, so you can see everybody, if everybody's yellow or everybody's red, which is, we can see what they're doing in real time, which is unbelievable now that we can tell anybody what they're doing, and they can tell each other too. And we have recovery heart rates. So when I showed him this, he said, well, how did you get the data? And I realized he hadn't seen anybody download a heart rate monitor. So I downloaded one right in front of him. And he just looked at me for about 15 seconds, and he said, well, that's incredible. Everybody does this. I said, right, wherever I am. And I said, this is the future. And I'm not going to let anybody hold me in the past. And I said, until I have drawn my last breath, I don't want to fight you, but I will. You're doing it wrong. FitnessGram, it must be done with heart rate knowledge, and you must include recovery heart rate, pre-exercise heart rate, and heart rate during the test. It has to be done that way. There is no other way of doing it. This isn't 1950. And nowadays it's even with the medications with asthma and so forth. So he was like a lot of people. Well, this is going to be, what's this going to cost? And I said, well, you don't give away FitnessGram. Things cost money. So I said, people find it. And now with the Heart Zones technology, it's so much cheaper. It's $5,000 for a class set that can be used hour after hour after hour with all 550 kids at Tilford Middle School or anywhere else. So, the outreach strategy there was just, you start to know people like Phil Lawler from Naperville, and meet Dr. Buffalino because Phil knows Dr. Buffalino, a cardiologist, and you start to get these people behind you, and correct ideas rise to the top.
Right.
In America, it might take a little while, but the bad ideas are discarded. I mean, you should discuss it. You can't have people changing all the time. So my belief was if I could get out there and do enough presentations, and when the pep grants hit, I had to do, I did so many pep grants were hit all over from Fairfax County to New York City to San Francisco. So I had a great opportunity to do presentations in front of 1,000 people a lot of times, and then keynotes at all 50 states and internationally, and then to work with a 30 Division I basketball programs, including Coach K at Duke and Pat Summitt at Tennessee and LSU, BYU, NC State with Kay Yao and Tarkanian over in Fresno State. Dale Brown was the first one. Sue Gunner. Everybody knew everybody, and pretty soon they would give me a hand. It was the connecting.
Yeah, Beth, what I'd like to do right now is I want to bring up a future professional. And what's great about this story, she didn't know you before we posted all the things we did in the promo. And she happens to be Abby Lingo. She's Shape America Undergraduate Student Leadership Network. She's one of the student leaders. I had her on just a few weeks ago. I'm going to bring her on now. And now that she's learned a lot more about you, I think it'd be really cool here it is. We want to connect our past. And make no mistake about it, Beth, you're very much a part of our future, but our past to our future, making it a better present. So with that, Abby, thank you for joining us. And you are now feel free to ask whatever you'd like of Beth Kirkpatrick.
Yeah, so first off, Beth, like Guy said, I didn't know your story at all. I've told that to some of my other Moshe people, and they've been telling me the stories. That's all I've been hearing for the past week is how amazing you are. And then hearing it straight from you as a future professional, I'm sitting here, I'm like, oh my goodness, I am so proud someone did this, because it takes a strong voice for someone to step up and fight all these battles for us. But I guess one of my questions I do have as a national leader is, how important do you think it is for us as future professionals to start networking now at a local level, but also across like the nation with each other?
Well, I think the most important thing I think is this. If you go to our website, and stop me if I'm not supposed to say this, Guy, but I don't think anybody knows how to write a grant, and I do. I really am good at that. So what I did was put together a PowerPoint for anybody, and it takes you through everything as I see it, and then it takes you through the whys and all the different questions that a normal grant will ask you about. Where do you get the stuff? What do you need it for? And what population and all of that. Well, I know all this. State the problem, state the solution. Well, I know it. So I wrote it all up, put it in a PowerPoint form. I just got done presenting that at North Carolina, and it'll be up on our website if it isn't now for free. Just go up there and you can get it. And it's a PowerPoint. You should make a printout of it, go to Staples or someplace like that, and have it all nicely done. And when you go to a tech committee or a school board, we don't know how to get money for our program. You can't change your program if you have no money. We can't keep making balls out of nylons and wrap them up in a thing and say, oh, look, it's an excuse. And I think the excuse is that we have to have this taught at the university level. Where how do you write a grant? How do you show us, give it to us? And then here's how you make the presentation. You put the things that you've printed out in front of them. And then the first thing you would say is, okay, I'd like to have you, I'll put a heart monitor on, and I'm not going to show it up on the board. And I'll say, guess my heart rate. This is so fabulous. So it's a hospital, John Deere Corporation. It's somebody's board. Doesn't even matter anymore. I got $1.5 million. It was almost too easy. And then I would say to these people, they want to help education. Well, what is my motive? My kids are going to benefit. I'm not getting a new salary. My kids are going to benefit. And there you are. Look how cute you are. And you got to have money. So you then they say to you, let's guess. And they think it's a fun game. And they go, oh, your heart rate's 100. And somebody else says, oh, it's 120. And you're standing up and you're probably nervous. Somebody, I bet she's a runner. I bet it's 65. And then they go through all 6, 7 people on the board. Then I go, now listen to me. Here's what my heart rate is. And I push the button and I showed up on the board. I said, do you see how ridiculous it is? None of you could guess what my heart rate was, and I'm standing still. I'm one person. I had 65 kids at a time, or athletics, 20, 30 basketball players, or whatever it is. I have no data from every time I've prescribed exercise. We're prescribing exercise to groups of individuals. What we should be doing is be able to prescribe exercise to individuals in a group setting, giving them the permission to speed up or slow down based upon their own heart rate. And we can see if they're reacting or not because it's up on the big board now, right in front of you. And but we have to have that background coming out and the ability to think that we have to go get some grants. I mean, we got $1.5 million. Do you know what it's like to have that kind of money? You can have all kinds of equipment. You can have rowing machines. You can design we had a rock climbing wall that moved. You have to light up their eyes when they come in. And I think too that there's this personalities that we don't understand. There are, 8 personalities. Let's say you're an introvert. You don't want to be with people. How can we make them play games? Maybe they want to work out in the fitness room. We have kids who are aggressive. You have kids who are this or that. We have kids who don't like to dance. We've got kids that, I think we should do. We should group kids differently than what we do now. They ought to be. There's a book called The 8 Colors of Fitness by Suzanne Burr. And she talks about why people drop out of fitness clubs, because all the people at the fitness clubs are people like you and I, fitness, and we love it and we're competitive. And we overlook the fact that that's not the case with 90%. 90% of all kids drop out of organized athletics by age 15. Only 10% remain. And all the youth sports programs have taken over the skills of games. There had to be more than that. I wanted the skills of life. And I wanted people to fill out 7 different lifestyle prescriptions. That I could be this job, I could do this job, I could do this job, this job, this job. What do you need for these jobs? And that's why I wrote this book, The Ultra Shuffle. And it's 93. I published it, self-published it. That speaks to that. You ought to be able to fill out 7 different lifestyle prescriptions, live as many lives as you can. I was a rock drummer. I was a physical education teacher. I was a director of this and that, and worked for. I don't have to do the same job my whole life. And what is the thing that you really? Well, I want to live in comfort. I want to live in sweatsuits. I will do no job where I can't live in comfort. But
Wow.
I know they took one of our sons said, oh, he should be he's really good at math. He'll be a banker. He'll be this. And I said, but he doesn't like to wear church clothes all day. He doesn't like to sit. So we can't let the education drive people into. And our society is so full of alcohol and drug abuse that what's the matter with people? I don't think they've been educated that you can do what you want, and the fear of failure is really profound. I'm not afraid of failure. I've got things else I can do, and we have to do that through sports. It should be okay. So you failed. What's the next sport we're going to do?
Yep. Abby, you got another question?
Yeah. So kind of just what you're talking about is educating people well. As a future educator or a first-year teacher, how do you make sure that you are educating quality education to all your students? And as like maybe a student teacher, if my teacher I'm observing, they're not a quality educator, how can I help change them? Because it takes a lot to change one person. Yeah,
it does. And I think when you're student teaching, you're sort of at a position of you're going to have to do what they want you to do. It's their program. And what you learn from that is, what do I want to do? What are the exercises? Just like having classical music. Or I designed a system called the Ultra Shuffle. It took me 4 years. When I found out that competition, 90% of all people don't even like competition. And yet every game we played was competitive. Could there be a way? And so the kids come and go. You had to have these jersey systems that I had. And when I saw the data from the first year of my heart rate data, when the first year I got them, the only 6 kids in each class had 80% of their heart rate time in the heart rate zone. Everybody else, 60 kids in each class had nothing. So I was actually turning off everybody. I thought the data was going to show me wonderful things. It showed me I was teaching dead wrong, and then I really had to think it through the summer. What am I going to do? Why? And then I heard this speaker talk about competition, how you're competitive. Not everybody is competitive. What about the people who aren't competitive? And we're driving them crazy, and there's got to be a better way. So this system of how to play games in a non-competitive way took my data from 6 kids in a class to having decent heart rate 50% of the time in above the target zone to 85%. So in 1 year, once I got this system figured out, until you have data to look at, it's very hard to let yourself see what's working, what isn't working. You'll just fool yourself saying, "Oh, it's a good class. They all did what I wanted to do. They're scared of me,"
Yeah. Well, Abby, we're going to keep you on. We're now going to bring in, Beth, this is the ZAG Bomb part of the show. This is where we're bringing on some random guests. You don't know who they are. Actually, you do know who this person is, but you don't know why he's on. So I'm now going to bring on Doc Lowry. Doc's here. And Doc, I know you guys go way back, and you were telling me about all the trips you'd make with your students, but I'd like you to set up for all of us, for our viewers, talk about that infamous Polar Masters program.
Well, this is just one of the many things that Beth was able to pull off. She was selling our program. She was selling it to people who had the wherewithal to support this. She forged a connection with the University of Northern Iowa and setting up this master's program. And again, it's just the innovative problem solving that has been the hallmark of her entire career. And this is who she is as a person. I don't know how in 1 or 2 minutes I can put together the 39 years that we've known each other, worked together. I still remember exactly where we were in the hallway at the Lodge of Four Seasons when Beth was presenting at Moaford in 1983. And when I found out she was in Vinton, and my hometown was just an hour north of there, it was easy. Well, Beth, I'll stop by, which I did. And so I was able to watch all the work that she was doing with the heart rate monitors, the Ultra Shuffle, all of that type of thing. And I was stealing ideas from her. I was taking them back to my students. So I'm not a very smart person, but I'm a great thief.
Right.
And when I see good stuff, I bring it back. And as this developed, then we brought her down to St. Louis for the PEP grant program with Ferguson Florissant.
Yeah.
Talk about highlights, not only on the data that we were able to do and the way that the program was accepted by the administration. where Laura received a standing ovation from the school board when she showed the results. But there were also some sidelights. I took Beth to a Cardinal baseball game, and she shared seats. And we were there, and they were having the festivities before. And all of a sudden, who did we see down on the field, Beth?
Shaquille O'Neal.
Shaq O'Neal with Albert Pujols. And Albert Pujols is 6'3" or 6'4", and he looked like a midget. And right away, Beth got out and told, Glenn, we're watching Shaq. Shaq is here with Albert.
And your seats are pretty good seats, by the way, behind the
three or four times she had to give Glenn an update about that. And so that's a great remembrance. And I was in your home in Grundy Center when Mark McGuire hit 61 and 60 or 62, 69 and 70. And so we have so many things to share, but you and Rick Chupaw were so gracious to allow me to bring a van load of students up from the University of Missouri in St. Louis on 3 separate years so that they could see heart rate monitoring in action and seeing the results and talking with your superintendent, John Green, and working with Rick and the entire thing. And then, of course, achievement after achievement after achievement, pulling off in 2010 the Global Forum for PE, where there were, I think, 57?
32 countries.
Yes, from 32 countries, and where we crafted what physical education should be. And talk about a dynamic group. And Guy, I sent you the photos from what we did in Grundy Center. This is just example after example after example of having an idea, making it work, being innovative, asking questions, finding solutions. And also I've heard her say, you know, you don't have to agree with me. Everyone has the right to be stupid. But, well, that was my doctoral professor, Dr. Lou Alley, said that. But Beth was forging ahead in everything that she did, and we're all better for you. Love you very much, Beth.
Thank you, Tom.
Love all you do.
And you know, Tom lifted me up to the national level. He won't say this, but they were writing a special insert into the what do you call it? Which magazine was that for AFERD?
Joker.
Joker.
Yeah. And then you said you write the middle school, and so I wrote the Ultra Shuffle, the Ultra Physical Education, and that got published, which made me a writer. You know, otherwise, how could I have gotten into something like that? You know, and that really helped me a lot. And then we got in the cover of Joford, and then we got in the cover of the International Journal, ISHPR, because of some of that stuff too. So it was amazing.
Yeah, Tom, I just want to thank you and Abby for coming on, you know, ZAG Bomber. And the fun isn't over yet. We got just 2 more guests still to come on. So I'm going to actually, you two just hang tight. And I got a couple more things to go here.
Thanks, David.
See Abby. All right. So Beth, we were talking about the impact of the Polar Scholars Master's Program, just really briefly, because I want to get to our guests. Talk to us about the overview of the Polar program. I know you could bring 7 students in, but kind of quickly let our audience know what this master's program is all about.
Well, the biggest thing was Dr. Chris Edgerton at UNI said his professors weren't moving quick enough they would come and they ooh and ah of what was going on in Grundy Center, this little town of physical education, and we've got to get this going. So how can we make an impact? And on the other side of it, Polar was saying, well, why would I put $500,000 into this program in Iowa, you know, for a master's program in technology, and I forget what the name of it was. Anyway, I said, because those 7 kids will come from 7 colleges. They'll go back and tell their colleges. Their professors will visit, which they ended up doing, you know, oftentimes. We've got to get the impact in the world to see this is normal. This is everyday stuff. This isn't impossible to do if we're doing it in Grundy Center. I always thought you could do it anywhere. Why can't you? So we, you know, the impact on that was that this these kids would come and it took 3 weeks for us to teach them the technology. I thought it would take maybe a week because they were all straight A students, but it would take them, we ended up having them there for 3 weeks early so they could get all the technologies. And I realized they weren't they weren't being taught that. Well, to have an ideal setting is something you dream of, where you have any bit of equipment. If you need roller skates, we've got 2 full sets of roller blades. If you need cross-country skis, we've got whatever you can think of. If we don't have it, we'll get it for you. So the kids had each other to talk to kind of to motivate each other and work with the community. The outreach was that you can't change physical education without reaching outside the walls of the gym. So we had seminars, we had days where we would do Saturdays where we would do testing for the community, health fairs. You come in and get your body age if you're 60, and you check out all these tests like blood pressure and all these things. And so we got the community going on this, and that was a pretty big deal because we really had, then when we wanted to have this global forum where everybody would come, they would, from all over the world to Grundy Center. And I asked Ming Kai Chen and Chris Edgerton, why do you think they're going to come from all over? PhDs, ministers of education. Why will they come from South Africa, from all over? He goes, because when you're at a conference, there's never any place you can see it. It's all theory. He said, but if you say, you can come and see it in action, he said, the room falls silent.
Yeah.
Where can they see this? And so it filled in 3 weeks. And it was the most remarkable thing I've ever seen. And the community had to house 100 guests. So we had to find places, and they had a ball. You know, our community members hosting 1 or 2 people from, whatever country. And then they would get together and say, oh, we got 12 countries at our house for dinner tonight. You know, it was, the community took a lot of pride in it too.
So Beth, what I'd like to do now is just give you another ZAG bomb. And I want someone who can speak directly to coming through the program. And that is our good friend, soon to be Dr. Bob Knipe. Bob, the floor is yours. You go where you want, but we'd love to hear the story. And I also heard being part of that program actually benefited for you personally. So why don't you unpack that for us?
Well, let me just start by saying I'm honored to be here and that we're celebrating you today, Beth. A lot of times we wait too late, and we get a chance to do this here with you. And so thank you for everyone who put this together. You know, if my PE mom, Carolyn Masterson, was my mom, then Beth is my aunt. I was introduced to Beth Kirkpatrick from Carolyn, and my life was changed by those 2 women. So in Women's Impact Month, I'll call it, right? They have made such an impact in my life. And I know all of you who are listening have those people in your life. So make sure you take the time to do that, because Carolyn Masterson has now passed, and I miss her dearly. And they were great colleagues. And I got a chance to meet Beth at my university and learn about what this Polar Scholar program is. It has made such an impact, not just on that community that it was a part of there in Grundy Center and University of Northern Iowa, and all the people who came through it. It was hit on a little bit earlier. The PE Institute was part of the PE for Life brand, and they had people from all over the nation come to that program. And we as Polar Scholars got a chance to be part of that on a daily basis. Abby, you talked about what do our future professionals need? We need to be able to live into it and experience it. And Beth was saying that. She created this environment where 7 of us from around the nation, a lot of us were the majors of the year for our universities, coming together in one place and kind of isolated, right? I'm from right outside New York City. I go to the middle of nowhere, Iowa, where there's pretty much nothing to do. There's 2 stoplights. There's more churches than bars, right? So when we're there, we're spending time together on a daily basis. We're going to courses together. We're using the technology. We have projection screens. And some of this might be normal now, but we're talking about 10, 15 years ago when we get a chance to, like Beth said, live into some PE heaven, right? We get surrounded by passionate people who are willing to fill us up and let us do that for them. To realize that it's not just normal to do PE this way, but to be this way, right? To be passionate about what we're doing and that be okay, right? The PE geek be the normal instead of what we're always socialized into, like more passive. Oh, I'm more about my coaching. But to be able to be excited about PE, that's something that I think Beth has done. And when you hear her out there, she does 2 things. And I tell this to every person I meet. She does 2 things. One, she'll tell you that you're horrible about your job, and you'll leave loving her, because in the end, she tells you about your potential. And Beth did that for me. When I was in undergrad, she looked at me and she said, you're going to come to my Polar Scholar program. And I still had 3 years to go. And so I lived into that, waiting for it. And I got a chance to go. And some of my other colleagues. And you might recognize some of these names. If you're in the social media space or involved with Shape America, Dr. Emily Bush-Jones is a graduate of our program. Ross Chatrian, Dr. Eberline, Andrew Eberline, just to name three. And then my wife, as Guy alluded to, at Rev PE, Rebecca Lambden Abram, as you see her, Lambden Abram Knife, now up for Teacher of the Year. Tony Loomis is one of our colleagues, a Polish scholar that got National Teacher of the Year. So we have professors, we have state organizers like Lisa Smith, Lisa Walter Smith, depending on when you knew her, okay, from Minneapolis. So Beth has inspired these leaders, and we talk about that legacy. The legacy is deep. The people, not just in Grundy Center, who have been impacted, and I get a chance to see that on social media, people who have gone on to do amazing things who are students there, right? But then as Polar scholars in that community, as they continue to thrive as a healthy and active space. But us as scholars, one of the things I always reflect on is, well, what were they trying to do? Was it about the technology? And I look back on it, and it wasn't. The technology was the thing that happened at the time. But the idea was that we were going to be embedded in communities, and that we were going to go on, once we serve those communities, to serve larger and larger communities, to find leadership opportunities wherever they may be, and to serve in those ways. In research, we hear this term thrown around a lot as stewards of the field. And that's what we were groomed to do. We were groomed to serve any place where we saw the opportunity, to give our full hearts. One of the things I know we all learned as Polar scholars is that there's not a separation between our work and our personal. And so you said, Guy, your personal life was changed. It literally was, because it becomes part of your identity. It's who we are. And Beth lives that. She oozes that, as well as Rick Schubach, her partner in crime there in Grundy Center. So yes, my life has been changed. Beth always told me that my firstborn was supposed to be named after her, so I apologize for that, Beth. We now have one of the grandchildren of the Polar Scholar Program, and I know Beth is like our family member. Beth has met every individual in my family, and we love her deeply. So greetings to you, Beth, from Becca, from Dolly, from Larry. They all send their love, and yes, we celebrate you today, and thank you for all the impact you've had on me and us as our family and the entire field.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Bob. Wow. Thank you so much. Awesome.
Wow, Bob, you are bringing it tonight.
Man.
See, told you, Beth. Hey, we got one more. We have one more ZAG Bomb. Bob, you can stay with us, and I want to bring in and Beth, we're going to go a little bit on the advocacy side, because this week I had the opportunity. Hang on a second. I'm not sure why she's not showing up on the screen. Let's see. Solar out. Nope. Remove, add her back in. Brandy, can you hear us? She can't hear us. I'm not sure.
I can hear you.
Well, we can hear you. We just can't see you.
I mean, nothing to see here. It's fine.
All right. Well, Beth, I had the privilege and opportunity of working with Dr. Brandy Lynch this week, from the University of Central Missouri. And we were part of the SHAPE advocacy, as well as Anna Forcelito, our president. And it was an amazing time, really amazing time to meet with a couple of our state representatives, as well as one of our senators, with Roy Blunt and Brandy. Afterwards, after we got a chance to debrief on the SHAPE advocacy this past week, which went really well here in Missouri. But we also know that Beth has just been a pioneer, as Bob said, on so many levels. Well, I want to unpack our final segment on advocacy. So Brandy, kind of, as we were talking, you were sharing some really cool connections with Beth and even Bob. So why don't you kind of unpack some of that for us?
Yeah, so I met Beth as a doc student when I was at University of Northern Colorado, and she was invited in to do a presentation on heart rate monitors. And I helped her set up in our gym and try to figure out some internet issues, and just had a chance to chat with her, and was blown away by her presentation, by her passion, by just the legacy that she set in our field. And like what Beth has done is what I strive to do. And so to find someone who is this living example who has made such an impact, not just in physical education, but across the board, was incredible. And so we have kept up and always made it a point to connect at conferences, and we keep up with each other on social media. And my daughter even has the same name as one of her granddaughters. And so it's fun to keep that going. But after I met Beth, I knew that when I started as a professor in physical education, teacher education, that the very first thing I wanted to do, if it wasn't there already, was to make sure we got some heart rate monitors, because I really believe in this and that data drives decisions, and that we need to have a way to measure effort and intensity in a meaningful way. And so I put that as part of my startup package, and it didn't necessarily work out. And so I reached out to Beth, and her and Deb Berkey walked me through how to write a grant. And so I wrote 2 internal grants within the first 2 years that I was at UCM. And I have a full class set of 30 heart rate monitors, and I've presented at state conferences. I've actually traveled with Heart Zones as a tag along to do some of the stuff out in schools. And I don't do it just because I enjoy the people, because I honestly enjoy the people also, but because I really believe in the concept behind it. And so some people, before I went on a trip with them, it's like, hey, are you getting paid? Like, is there something in it for you? And I'm like, no, there's really not. I mean, it'd be cool to be thrown like a pullover or something. It's fine. But I just absolutely believe in what we're doing here. And so Beth has definitely set that groundwork, and I want to be one of those people that continue it. And so I teach my students, and I teach them about them and why heart rate monitors are important. And then I give them a chance to utilize them in their teachings in like a peer teaching setting before they go out into the field. And then I have the class set that they're able to check out and take into student teaching. And we bring a lot of technology out into the field. So I love those practicum experiences, because one, it's a chance for my students to get out there in like real world settings with real students and do all of that. But it's also a chance for us to highlight that best practice that Beth was talking about. And it's awesome that through all these years, she has continued to be on the cutting edge and on like a front runner in best practice. And that book she showed you, I was actually gifted by Dr. Dennis Dochev, and it has her signature in it. And when he gave it to me, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. So I took a picture of it for Beth and I sent it to her, and I was like, look, I even have your signature too. And so she is a living legend, and I am so thankful to know her professionally and personally. And I want to make her proud to continue this endeavor, because it's not like, at the end of the day, it's not about us. If people don't remember Beth's name, I don't think she's real worried about that. But if they remember that, hey, this is about students, and this is about caring about them as people, not numbers and not grades and not, how many sit-ups and pull-ups and all that, but like, let's care about our kids. And this is a great way that we can care about our students by personalizing their data, and then being able to personalize instruction and goals and all of that. So I appreciate the chance to pop on and just give a shout out to Beth, because she's a rock star and I am proud to know her.
Thank you, Brandy. You're a rock star. You too, Bob.
You still can't see me? That's too bad. I'm giving you a double thumbs up right now.
I know what you look like.
Yeah. So Beth, I'm bringing everyone back on as we wrap up. It is truly amazing, all that you've done, all the people you've impacted. I want to say thanks to all the ZAG Bomb guests. Your words have spoken so powerfully. Beth, I told you this when we started the broadcast. It has truly been an honor to do this interview with you, to celebrate. I really like what Bob said. I know we called it #Women's History Month, but Bob, I think you got it right. Women's Impact Month. I mean, that's what this is. We're celebrating you, Beth, on all the amazing things that you do, continue to do, and are going to be doing moving forward. And we can't wait to see you continue to work with our future professionals like the Abbeys, and some of our other, leaders that we have in our state, and through all 50 states with this new program that Shape America has, this student leadership network. So Beth, we want to thank you so much. We love you. And thank you so much for all that you have given us and how you've just innovated. And as in my world, zagged, definitely zagged. You invented the word before I even used it or coined it. But Beth, any last words?
I've never even thought about anything like this. There's so many people. I mean, I kind of follow Dr. Lowry. I mean, he knows everybody, and they bring you into their circle, you bring him into your circle, and it goes every which way. It really is like Bob. So it's about the relationships and the people you know, and you're never afraid to discuss stuff because. I mean, Bob, how many times did I tell Rick Schubach, or just hang up on him? I mean, just plain just hang up on him, and then later on I realized, well, wait a minute, it's true. Whatever he was saying, who knows if it was true, but it was. But so you have to have that freedom to have the collaboration and to have some fun with it too. And it's a wonderful life. Well, thank you. Thanks a lot, Guy and Tom and Bob and Brandy, of course, and Abby, the new one. Can't wait for you to get out here.
Absolutely. So with that, I just want to let everyone know we will have at MoShape our next broadcast. Actually, it's going to be a Women's History Month panel. So we're going to have a panel of some pretty amazing women who have been also pioneering on some other aspects in our profession. So stay tuned for that. We'll keep you posted on that with the MoShape media. But with that, we want to thank everyone for tuning in tonight. And certainly if you're watching the replay, please put your comments in. We'd love to see them. I know Beth and all of us would love to read them. And
I'd like to say thank you to my husband, Glenn, and to our children, Joshua and Jason, and to my fabulous daughter-in-law, Melanie, and our beautiful grandchildren, Charlie and Jalen, especially. They're my favorites.
Absolutely. And Beth's been married for, get this, 47 years. Congratulations, Beth. Yeah, exactly. Wow. That'd be a whole nother show, right? Like, how do you do that? So, Beth, again, we thank you so much. We love you, and you're such an inspiration to all of us. And thank you. And thank everyone for tuning in on this very special ZAG Talk podcast live as we celebrate the career and life of Beth Kirkpatrick. For our panelists, for Beth Kirkpatrick, I am Guy Danhoff. We want to thank you for watching it all right here on the podcast. Thank you.